The persistent hum of the server room was a familiar comfort, a constant backdrop to my life as an IT specialist. My name is Alaric, and at 44 I considered myself a fortunate man. Based in Seattle, I had a stable job, a beautiful home overlooking Puget Sound, and a wife, Bronte, who I adored. Or perhaps who I thought I adored. Bronte worked as a real estate agent, a profession that suited her outgoing personality and sharp wit. We had been married for 15 years, a decade and a half filled with what I believed to be mutual love and respect. Sure, there were occasional disagreements, the usual ebb and flow of married life, but nothing that ever truly threatened the foundation of our relationship, or so I thought. The first crack in that foundation appeared subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bronte started working later, attending more networking events, and her phone became an extension of her hand. I initially dismissed it as the demands of her job. The real estate market in Seattle was booming, and I knew she was driven to succeed. But then came the changes in her demeanor. She became distant, less affectionate, and her eyes held a flicker of something I couldn't quite decipher. One evening, I was working late trying to fix a critical server issue. Bronte texted me to say she was having dinner with a client. I thought nothing of it until I got home around 11 p.m. The house was dark and quiet, but as I walked past the living room, I noticed Bronte's purse on the floor. It was the designer one I'd gifted her for our anniversary. Odd, I thought. She never leaves it out like that. A wave of unease washed over me, a cold premonition that something was amiss. I picked up her purse, intending to put it away, when my eyes fell on her phone. It was lying face down, the screen illuminated with a notification. A message. From a contact labeled Jake Work. My heart pounded in my chest as I hesitated. I knew I shouldn't. I knew it was a violation of her privacy. But the knot of suspicion in my stomach was tightening, urging me to uncover the truth. With trembling fingers, I picked up the phone and opened the message. Can't stop thinking about last night. Dinner was amazing, but the company was even better. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My breath hitched in my throat and my vision blurred. Jake. Who the hell was Jake? And what company was she referring to? A sickening wave of nausea washed over me as I scrolled through the messages. They were filled with flirtatious banter, suggestive emojis, and veiled references to secret rendezvous. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. The woman I had loved, the woman I had trusted, was betraying me. The pain was so intense, so visceral, that I physically recoiled. I stumbled backward, knocking over a vase on the coffee table. It shattered on the floor, the sound echoing in the silent house, a fitting soundtrack to my shattered reality. I spent the next few hours in a daze, pacing the floor, replaying the messages in my head, trying to make sense of it all. How could she do this to me? What had I done to deserve this? Was our entire marriage a lie? Sleep was impossible. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the image of Bronte's smiling face juxtaposed with the incriminating messages on her phone. The woman I thought I knew was a stranger. The next morning I confronted her. I waited until she was getting ready for work, her usual cheerful self, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. Bronte, we need to talk, I said, my voice trembling. She turned around, a questioning look on her face. About what, Alaric? I'm running late. I held up her phone, the screen displaying the message from Jake Work. Her face paled. The color drained from her cheeks and her eyes widened in panic. What is this? She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Don't play dumb, Bronte. You know exactly what this is. Who is Jake? And what's been going on behind my back? She tried to deny it at first, to brush it off as a harmless flirtation, a misunderstanding. But the evidence was irrefutable. The messages, the late nights, the changes in her behavior, it all pointed to one undeniable truth. She was having an affair. Finally, she broke down, tears streaming down her face. She confessed everything. Jake was a colleague, a younger, more exciting man who had swept her off her feet. She claimed it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, that she still loved me and wanted to save our marriage, but the words rang hollow. The trust was broken, shattered beyond repair. The image I had of her, of us, was forever tarnished. I couldn't forgive her, I couldn't forget. I want you to leave, I said, my voice cold and detached. I want you out of this house. She begged me to reconsider, to give her another chance. But my mind was made up. I couldn't live with the knowledge of her betrayal. I couldn't bear to look at her without seeing the image of her in another man's arms. She left that day, taking her belongings and a piece of my heart with her. The house felt empty and silent, devoid of her laughter, her presence, her deceit. I spent the next few weeks in a fog of grief and anger. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't focus on work. The pain was all-consuming, a constant ache in my chest. My friends tried to comfort me, to offer words of encouragement, but nothing could fill the void that Bronte had left behind. I felt lost and alone, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. As the weeks turned into months, I slowly began to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in the familiar routine and the intellectual challenge. I started exercising again, running along the waterfront, letting the cool sea breeze cleanse my mind. I also sought therapy, talking through my emotions with a professional who helped me understand the complexities of betrayal and the importance of self-care. It was a long and difficult process, but slowly, gradually, I began to heal. One evening, about 6 months after Bronte left, I received a phone call from an unknown number. I hesitated before answering, a knot of apprehension tightening in my stomach. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Alaric, it's Jake," the voice on the other end said. My blood ran cold. The name sent a jolt of anger through me, a reminder of the pain and betrayal I had suffered. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice tight with suppressed rage. "I need to talk to you," he said, his voice sounding strained and uneasy. "It's about Bronte." I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. "What about her?" I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "She's not who you think she is," he said. "She's been lying to both of us." I scoffed. "Lying? That's an understatement. She cheated on me with you. What else is new?" "It's more than that," he said. "She's been using me, manipulating me. She told me she was going to leave you, that she was going to start a new life with me, but it was all a lie. She just wanted my money." I was stunned into silence. "What are you talking about?" I finally managed to ask. He explained that Bronte had been subtly siphoning money from his accounts, using his credit cards without his knowledge, and making promises she had no intention of keeping. She had painted a picture of a future together, a lavish lifestyle filled with travel and luxury, all funded by his wealth. "I confronted her about it," Jake said, his voice filled with anger and resentment. "She denied it at first, but then she admitted it. She said she was just trying to secure our future, that she deserved it after all the sacrifices she had made for me." "Sacrifices?" I echoed, incredulous. "What sacrifices? She was using you just like she used me," he sighed. "I know. I was a fool. I fell for her charm, her lies. I thought she was different, that she genuinely cared about me, but she's just a con artist." He went on to say that he had ended the affair and was planning to press charges against Bronte for fraud and theft. He wanted to warn me, to let me know the truth about the woman I had married. I thanked him for his honesty, though a part of me couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. Bronte's lies had finally caught up with her. Her deceit had not only destroyed our marriage, but had also ruined her own life. I hung up the phone, a strange mix of emotions swirling inside me. Relief, anger, sadness, and a touch of satisfaction. Bronte had gotten what she deserved. Her greed and selfishness had led to her downfall. But as I sat there, contemplating the events of the past few months, I realized that revenge wasn't the answer. It wouldn't bring back the years I had lost, the trust that had been broken, the love that had been betrayed. I decided to focus on my own healing, on building a new life for myself, one free from deceit and manipulation. I started dating again, cautiously, tentatively, learning to trust again, to open my heart to the possibility of love. It wasn't easy, but with time and effort, I began to find happiness again. I realized that Bronte's betrayal, while devastating, had also been a catalyst for change. It had forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities, to reevaluate my priorities, and to ultimately become a stronger, more resilient person. One day, about a year after the divorce, I ran into Bronte at a local coffee shop. She looked different, older, more worn down. Her eyes lacked the sparkle they once had, and her face was etched with lines of regret. She approached me hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Alaric, can we talk?" she asked. I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. We sat down at a table in the corner, an awkward silence hanging between us. "I wanted to apologize," she said, her eyes filled with tears. "For everything. For the pain I caused you, for the lies I told, for the betrayal." I looked at her, trying to gauge the sincerity of her words. "It's too late for apologies, Bronte," I said, my voice calm but firm. "You broke my heart, you destroyed our marriage. I can't forgive you for that," she nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. I don't expect you to. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. I made a terrible mistake and I've paid the price for it." She told me that she had lost everything: her job, her friends, her reputation. The charges that Jake had pressed against her had been dropped, but the scandal had followed her, making it impossible for her to find work. "I'm alone," she said, her voice cracking with emotion. "I have no one. I ruined my life and I deserve it." I felt a pang of sympathy for her, a flicker of the love I once had, but I couldn't let go of the pain, the anger, the betrayal. "I hope you find peace, Bronte," I said, my voice devoid of emotion. "But I can't be a part of your life anymore." I stood up and walked away, leaving her sitting there alone, a broken woman haunted by her past. As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt a sense of closure, a sense of finally moving on. Bronte's betrayal had been a defining moment in my life, a turning point that had forced me to confront my own vulnerabilities and to rebuild my life from the ashes. I had survived, I had healed, and I had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. And that, I realized, was the ultimate revenge.